Welcome to Studio Snack. I'm Lydia Thornley, designer, creative director and sketcher.
And I'm Narcisa Oleda, a designer with lots of patience.
And we're just back after a summer break. We've been talking about fast snacks that are slow to make. So this month we give you, small drum roll, pretzels.
Excellent. So there is a design point to it, which we're going to go into it later. But first of all, let's get some fast facts about the slow snack.
That's not something you can say quickly.
Absolutely not.
Okay, here goes. Origins. Surprisingly, 610 AD in Italy, originally a religious snack for Lent, made from leftover bread dough. The shape symbolised prayer with arms crossed over the chest. And the best name theory is Brachelli, little arms, which slowly evolved into German Brezel. And they spread across Europe during the Middle Ages as symbols of good luck, prosperity, and spiritual fulfilment. By the 1400s, large soft pretzels had become a thing in Germany, eaten with boiled eggs on Good Friday. In 1510, Viennese pretzel bakers foiled an Ottoman invasion, so they were given their own coat of arms featuring a pretzel. And there's even a myth that the term tying the knot came from a royal wedding tradition in Switzerland where a couple would tug at a pretzel like a wishbone.
Amazing.
There are various stories on how they travelled to the US, to Pennsylvania via German immigrants, on the Mayflower used as trade with First Nation Americans, and there are stories on the origin of the hard pretzel too. There's one that a baker's apprentice nodded off in front of the fire, woke up, forgot he already baked his pretzels and baked them again, or that they just stayed fresher for longer so you could sell them further afield. And the first automated pretzel bakery was in 1935, making 235 a minute.
What?
Against the 40 that could be made by hand, which is still a pretty good going.
Yeah.
Germany, lots of pretzels when I was researching that, including pudding pretzels, a snack I can get fully behind.
Me too.
The Westphalian city of Merton has a crest of two lions holding a pretzel. And the city of Speyer calls itself Pretzel Town and has a beer and pretzel festival in mid-July, which includes the throwing of 22,000 pretzels. Why pretzels and beer? I looked that one up. Sales, seemingly a salty snack. Meanwhile, back in the States, Freeport, Illinois is Pretzel City, and its festival has a man dressed as a 6-foot pretzel.
I love that.
As you do. Philadelphia also has a pretzel museum, which I feel means that I need to go to Philadelphia sometime soon.
Field trip?
I think it could be a field trip. I even found 2 pretzel dance moves in 1920 swing dance and the pretzel twist by Chubby Checker.
Which we're going to record in a minute by Lydia and put it on Instagram.
Yeah, that might involve a trip to A&E. Emoji's best not. It has several meanings, some of them quite rude. Pretzels in music, there's a song called Those Lazy, Hazy, Crazy Days of Summer by Nat King Cole, and the album Pretzel Logic by Steely Dan. They're even in art and design. Andy Warhol produced a pretzel textile print, Claes Oldenburg made a pretzel screen print, and the Vitra Museum has a pretzel chair designed by George Nelson and Associates and produced by Herman Miller in the 1950s. Which brings us neatly to design. Narcissus, you've been thinking about design process and time, haven't you?
I have. So, as a designer, I bet you also have had the same situation when a client comes to you and says, I need this for yesterday, as always.
Oh, yes.
Or, can you do this in 5 minutes for me? Thank you.
And my personal favourite, can you just?
Can you just? So, I think design and baking, or design and doing pretzels, they have some commonalities, because design needs a little bit of kneading the ideas that you have, and then you have to let them rest a little bit so you can actually think about them when you're not thinking about them.
Very true.
And then you have to shape them in some way, like the knots on the pretzels, and then you have to let them raise again just to make sure that the idea is coagulating well, and then you have to boil them, and then you have to bake them. So people don't realize how much is this process of thinking in graphic design takes. Like, usually takes longer thinking than actually doing the physical design work. And then when you rush any baking, mostly it's the perfect recipe for spelling mistakes or for low resolution images, or you're gonna get like an average design where there's no innovation. It's just something that's a little bit meh. And in digital, you can take some shortcuts because you've got the ability to maybe change some of these spelling mistakes or these images. But when it's in print, something physical, the only solution is either you reprint it, which means more money that you have to spend, or you have to live with it.
Yes, it's much more final. So for the experiment, because pretzels feel typographic and they've been an emblem for the Viennese pretzel bakers, we thought we could create a logo or mark for Studio Snack.
Yes, how did that go, Lydia?
Well, first I drew some pretzels to investigate their shape more closely, because drawing is kind of how I look at things, and see if there might be an S in there for Studio Snack, to which the answer is yes, but you have to work quite hard to get to it. I did get there in the end. Then I tried baking some soft pretzels to try out traditional and nautical knots, and in the process I seem to have invented a new kind of bread roll, and that's a real lesson in cutting corners, because I didn't really think about how long my line of pretzel dough needed to be to do that. You can't assume it or fudge it. Fudge, see what I did there?
Fantastic.
So had I thought about exactly how long my line of dough needed to be, I could then have improvised with it to make other knots. And I think there's an analogy there in design. We spend 4 years training, and if we're lucky, another 4 years in the design equivalent of Michelin-starred kitchens, having stuff thrown back at us. And with that knowledge, we know what the craft of design is, so we can follow it, deconstruct it, or disrupt it in a well-informed way. So how did your experiment go?
First of all, I jam everything together. See what I did there?
Jam, very good.
And I follow the recipe more or less, less than more. I mean, and basically what happened is that I end up with a new construction material, which I'm now going to patent and try to make some millions. But then I went and followed properly the recipe, mostly because I didn't boil the pretzel, but I did kind of follow it, and it came out with something that is not amazing, but it's edible.
So what have we learned in this episode?
So I think for me, what I've learned is that rushing things is a recipe for disaster.
Yay!
We're very funny today. And I think when you jump some steps, or when you're not doing things exactly how you meant to do it, or if you don't leave time to rise the dough, things don't get quite the way you want it.
And you made the point earlier that what's easy isn't always easy. What looks easy isn't always easy.
Yeah, I think so. And then the other thing I noticed when I did my designs was that I created some logos for the Studio Snack. You can also see them in Instagram, but they don't look or feel like pretzel. And I think pretzel has like a very strong brand shape that it's actually when you change the shape, that doesn't feel like it's a pretzel.
It's recognizable, isn't it? And we quite often have to hold on to that when we're working on brands.
And the other thing I kind of want to reiterate is what you just said earlier, which is that educated intuition that you get as a graphic designer when you've worked in long enough that you know that something is gonna work.
Well, I think it's like jazz or comedy improv. Underneath all of that apparently effortless performance is a huge amount of knowledge.
Yeah.
And you need to know that framework to be able to break out of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Pretzel?
Pretzel.
Sour cream and chive, I believe, in a very noisy packet. They're such a recognisable shape.
There's a reason why pretzels have a good popularity, isn't it?
Absolutely. Thank you for listening. We'll be back next month with another Studio Snack.
Bye-bye.